Hi, everybody. Welcome again to Ivy English. I'm Bruce.
I'm Angela.
And I'm Wesley.
Well, we're back again for you, this time with a reading comprehension. We have an article followed by just a few questions. Well, the article today has a title, which is How Heat Extremes Are Impacting the World.
我们的中文标题是热浪席卷全球，但是我们的英文里面各位看到 heat extremes 就是这个极端的热，这里指的当然就是热浪。然后呢，他们是如何的在 impacting 就是产生冲击、产生影响，他们是如何的冲击这个世界。
Places in Europe and North America have experienced extreme heat waves this past summer. Unfortunately, these are not the only regions to suffer from increasingly severe weather phenomena. As global temperatures continue to rise on average and climates change, extreme weather events are only going to become more prevalent in the future. One of the most noticeable effects of global climate change is the increasing length and severity of heat waves. Some experts predict that extreme heat waves, like the ones in Europe this past summer, are now 10 times more likely to occur. Furthermore, the average duration of these heat waves has more than doubled. A byproduct of increasing temperatures is more persistent droughts. Intense heat waves can exacerbate droughts in some regions. With more periods of drought come more wildfires. Plants dry out during periods of low rainfall, making them easily catch fire. In Canada, one recent wildfire was so fierce that the smoke clouds created a mini weather system that even produced lightning, igniting more fires. On the flip side, rainfall is also getting more intense in some regions. Increasing temperatures means water evaporates more quickly. The excess moisture in the air leads to intense periods of rain over a short amount of time. For example, Brisbane, Australia, recently received almost 80% of its annual rainfall in just 6 days. While the weather has always been changing, it is clear that climate change has led to some extreme variations.
Okay, so places in Europe and North America, there are bits of the planet that have experienced extreme heat waves this past summer. By extreme heat, we're not saying it got a little bit hot. We're saying that people fainted in the streets. It was hot. Jeez.
所以这个我们讲极端热浪非常的热那我们可以看到说在欧洲还有北美的一些地方 places， 那这不特定的一些地方，那这些地方呢 have experienced， 他们经历了 extreme 就是极端的 heat waves 热浪。This past summer 就是今年夏天，就是今年已经过去的，现在11月了嘛，就今年的这个夏天已经过去的，叫做 this past summer.
Unfortunately, these are not the only regions to suffer from increasingly severe weather phenomena. It's too bad that, unfortunately, Europe and North America are not the only regions or areas, in this case continents, to suffer from, to have problems with, increasingly severe weather phenomena. Something that is severe is very strict, very powerful, in a bad way usually. Phenomena is the plural of phenomenon, and that simply means something that happens, something that exists, normally for a shorter period of time.
所以 phenomena 就是现象这个是复数，它的单数呢是字尾是 menon 那既然这个现象通常就是它不会存在很久。那我们看到这个句子一开始他说 unfortunately 很不幸的 these 就是指前面讲的这些地方，北美、欧洲这些地方 they are not the only regions 他们不是唯一的一些地区 to suffer from 什么什么 to带一个不定词片语修饰这个名词 regions 所以这些地方这些不是唯一的一些区域受到什么 这些区域受到什么呢？ Suffer from 因什么为苦？受到什么而苦呢？他们受到的就是 increasingly 越来越 severe 严重或者严酷的 weather phenomena 啊，天气现象。那 severe 这个字呢是很严重很严酷的意思， harsh 啊 H-A-R-S-H， 或者就是 serious 啊，或者是更凶一点的是 unsparing 啊，这个字呢还可以学一学啊 U-N-S-P-A-R-I-N-G unsparing 就是不饶恕你的啊，我的把你热死啊，而且是 increasingly 越来越 severe 的这个 weather phenomena。
So as global temperatures, so that means the temperatures around the globe or across the world, continue to rise on average. So overall, the average temperature is continuing to rise, even though in given years, some countries might be cooler or warmer. On average, the temperatures are going up. And climate change and climates change, meaning the climates in each country begins to be different. For instance, in the United States, some insects have a much broader range of territory now because it's warmer. And so, for instance, elderberry trees are dying in Wisconsin because there's a bug that comes in and attacks them that didn't used to be able to live in Wisconsin because Wisconsin was originally too cold for it. So things like this, the climates in various places are changing. So extreme weather events are only going to become more prevalent, meaning they'll happen more often in the future. The future is now.
OK, 好，所以 as 是随着 global temperatures 全球的气温，那这里不会只有一个气温，所以 temperature 会加 s 好，所以随着全球的气温 continue to 就是持续的 rise 就是往上升 on average 平均上往上升，好 rise on average 好，然后呢随着 climates 气候change 这个 change 是动词啊，所以不是念 climate change 啊。如果是复合名词气候变迁叫 climate change， 重音在 climate， 但在这里是 climate change 好，这个 change 是动词，它是实词啊，有重音的。所以随着气候变迁，随着全球气温持续上升，而且是平均上面持续上升，所以随着这些现象呢，那后面主要子句的主词 extreme 极端的 weather events 啊，这是在一起的 weather events 一个复合名词，就是天气事件，就是天气过热过冷等等，这些都是跟天气有关的事件。所以这些极端的天气事件呢 are only 只会 going to 就是未来它只会怎么样呢 become 变成 more prevalent 更加的普遍 in the future。 prevalent 就是普遍的意思 widely or commonly occurring 就是 prevalent 的意思。
Okay, in that first paragraph, we looked at a general situation about how climates are changing in certain areas around the world. In general, temperatures are increasing in some places some of the time. In the second paragraph now, we're going to be talking more specifically, focusing on these heat waves. One of the most noticeable effects of global climate change is the increasing length and severity of heat waves. Now, a heat wave is a period of much higher than usual temperatures. We used to call these heat spells, but I guess that fell out of...
That's ancient.
Yeah.
Anyway, so a heat wave is what you are likely to read or to hear these days. And that is a noticeable effect of global climate change. It's easy to experience. You can't miss it because the heat waves are longer and more severe. We had the synonym harsh earlier, H-A-R-S-H. It's more powerful in a bad way. So instead of just having 2 or 3 days of very hot weather, now we used to call those dog days. D-O-G, dog days, because the dogs
are panting.
They're panting. They looked hot, and then people started to look like the dogs on hot days. But that was only 2 or 3 days. Now you can have 2 or 3 weeks of temperatures that are almost unbearable.
Yeah, maybe that's why they stopped using the word spell.
Oh, that could be, yeah.
Yeah. 啊，因为 spell 刚刚布鲁斯老师讲说他们以前没有多以前啦，就是从前呢
long ago
啊，这个我们现在都知道 heat waves 热浪啊，那以前呢英文有一个说法叫heat spells 啊 S-P-E-L-L 啊，那 spell 就是指一段时间好像中了魔一样，那段时间有一些比较异常的现象。好，那我们刚刚就猜，因为现在的热浪越来越长了时间越来越长，所以也许 spell 不够用了所以现在大家都在讲 heat waves。好，那刚刚 Bruce 再讲了一个很有趣的一个用法，叫这个 dog days 就是很热的天气那狗你会发现狗很可怜一直在舌头收不回去那个就是很热的天气那当然现在这个好像也比较少用了那我们回来看这个句子，他说在最 noticeable 就是最让人最显著的，最让你看得到 observable 或者 evident 或者 significant 最让你能够注意到的 effects 就是效果 of global 全球性的 climate change， 所以全球气候变迁最让你最显著的效果之一这是我们的主词One of the most noticeable effects of global climate change 是什么？是 the increasing length， 这不断增加的 increasing length 是长度，这里指时间的长度，还有 severity 就是强烈的程度 harshness 那 of heat waves， 所以最显著的气候变迁造成的结果就是热浪来的时间呢一来时间更长而且更强以前热浪可能2-3天1-2天就过了，现在热浪可能是整个星期的热浪，而且呢强烈很多，热很多。
So, some experts predict that extreme heat waves like the ones in Europe this past summer are now 10 times more likely to occur. So, 10 times is a lot more times.
Yeah.
In other words, we're going to be hot a lot more often.
Yeah, 所以有一些专家 predict that 他们预测 pre 就是先 before dict 就是说，所以他们先说了就是预测，他们预测怎么样极端的 heat waves extreme heat waves like the ones in Europe this past summer 就好像今年夏天欧洲的那样的极端的热浪呢 are now 现在是怎么样 10 times more likely to occur 发生的可能比以前高10倍。
Furthermore, the average duration of these heat waves has more than doubled. Moreover, in addition, there's more that we're going to talk about from this idea of extreme heat waves. The average duration, that's the length of something, how long something lasts. The duration of these heat waves has more than doubled. As I mentioned before, in decades ago, you might have 2, 3, 4 days of very, very hot weather. Now it's easy to have 5, 6, 7, 8 days, a week, even longer than a week of temperatures that are very unusually hot.
好 furthermore 此外怎么样呢 the average 平均的duration of these heat waves 就是它持续的时间叫 duration， 因为它其实前面讲到这个长度它的时间长度已经有增加，所以这些热浪的持续时间呢 has more than doubled 就是它增加了不止1倍，它比增加1倍还要多所以这个时间也长了，那这个强度也增加了。
So a byproduct of increasing temperatures is more persistent droughts. A drought is a period of time in which not enough rain falls to sustain the green things in the ground. Persistent is one that sticks around for a really long time, like the one in the American Southwest that's stuck around for 22 years already. And so a byproduct of something is something that happens because of something else. It's not an intentional product. It just also happens to happen. Although not that heat waves are intentional, but anyways. So the fact that we have more heat waves and more high temperatures means that we're going to have less rain in critical times.
好，所以 a byproduct 就是副产品附带产生的一个后果of increasing temperatures。所以持续上升的温度，它有一个副作用或者副产品，就是 more 更加 persistent， 就是在这里就持续的、顽强存在的lasting for a long time and difficult to get rid of 叫做 persistent 所以这个有更持续更顽强的 droughts 就是干旱所谓的 persistent droughts 就是干旱开始更容易发生，而且只要有干旱呢，这干旱越来越不容易消除像美国这个有些部分地区的干旱已经超过20年了就持续的干旱。
Intense heat waves can exacerbate droughts in some regions. Well, that makes sense. Intense means to a high degree or very deeply. So the longer and hotter the heat waves, this will exacerbate is to increase something in a bad way. The droughts will get worse as heat waves increase. That only makes sense.
Intense 就是强烈的 heat waves 强烈的热浪 can 可以它可能会 exacerbate 这个词还不错就这个托福GRE 可能都会考到它就是 intensify 的意思，就是使它恶化，使它更加重 worsen 让它更糟糕。所以这个强烈的热浪可以让干旱更加的严重in some regions 在某一些地方。
And so, with more periods of drought, come more wildfires. So more dryness, more fire. And so yet another fun byproduct.
好，然后呢，这个句子有一点倒装，它真正的主词是 more wildfires， 更多的野火，然后怎么样 come 会来 with 跟什么来呢 more periods of drought， 更多的干旱期就会有更多的野火所以它原来的句子是 more wildfires come with more periods of drought， 但在这里它把它倒装之后呢，这个重点就会出现两个，一个就是 more wildfires， 好，那前面呢这个 more periods of drought 也比较凸显了一点，因为它把它带到句首了。
Plants dry out during periods of low rainfall. When there's not enough rain, plants become too dry. They're used to having enough water. When that happens, the droughts make them easily catch fire. They can burn much more easily. We call this condition flammable, F-L-A-M-M-A-B-L-E, F-L-A-M-M-A-B-L-E. Because they dry out, they become flammable. They burn easily.
好，所以呢，植物 dry out 就是变得干燥。During 在这个 periods of low rainfall 这个降雨少或者是降雨量低的时期呢，植物就会变得比较干燥。Making them 使得 them 就是 plants 使得植物 easily 很容易就会 catch fire 着火。
So in Canada, one recent wildfire was so fierce or strong that the smoke clouds from the fire created a mini weather system. And this mini weather system even produced lightning because the clouds were generating electricity. And what did the lightning do? It ignited more fires. So, here we got really bad, vicious cycle. We've got droughts lead to heat waves lead to droughts, lead to wildfires, lead to storms that ignite more fires. Good.
Yeah, 所以真的很糟糕这恶性循环。那在加拿大呢，最近 one recent wildfire 最近有一个野火的事件呢，这个野火 was so fierce 非常的猛烈fierce 猛烈到什么程度呢 the smoke clouds 就是烟雾所形成的那个云 created 他们制造了成为他们形成了一个 mini 就是迷你的很小型的 weather system 天气系统，所以它这个火烧到那个烟雾所形成的云呢，就自己产生了一个迷你的天气系统。那这个天气系统怎么样 that even 它这个天气系统甚至于 produced 产生了 lightning 产生了闪电，那结果呢又 igniting 又点燃了更多的这个野火ignite 就是点燃 to cause to burn to set fire to.
All right, our final paragraph. On the flip side, now we're going to look at not droughts, but what would the opposite of that be? Rainfall is also getting more intense in some regions. So it's getting hotter and drier in some areas. On the flip side, on the contrary, some areas are getting too much rainfall.
好 on the flip side 中文就翻成在另一方面但其实英文里面呢，它的意思是 looking at a different 或者通常是 opposite aspect 一个不同甚至于一般是相反的一个面向。好，所以我们现在看完了火，现在要来看水所以呢，另外一方面呢，降雨 rainfall 它也是怎么样 getting more intense 也是更加的剧烈了 in some regions 在某一些地区 降雨也是更加剧烈。
Okay, so remember all those dry plants? That water had to go somewhere. It evaporated from the heat and it went up into the atmosphere. And this is what this next sentence means. Increasing temperatures, so higher temperatures means water evaporates more quickly. To evaporate means to turn into vapor. So the water in all those plants evaporates, turns into vapor, and goes up into the atmosphere. But then what goes up must come down.
Yeah, 所以 increasing 就是不断增加的 temperatures 温度不断升高的温度 means 表示 water 水会怎么样 evaporates 就是蒸发 more quickly 它蒸发的越快。
The excess moisture in the air from all this evaporation leads to intense periods of rain. As we just heard, once it goes up, it's got to come down, and then it's in the form of rain, and often over a short period of time or a short amount of time. So you have much more rain quickly, and of course that means flooding.
好，所以 the excess 这个地方是形容词，就是多出来的多余的 surplus surplus 这个多出来的这个湿气 moisture in the air 空气里面多出来的湿气呢，就 leads to 会导致 intense 剧烈的 periods of rain 一段一段时间的降雨 over a short amount of time 在短时间之中会有很多很多的降雨而且是剧烈的降雨。
For example, Brisbane, Australia, recently received almost 80% of its annual rainfall in just 6 days. So imagine getting nearly a year's worth of rain in 6 days. That's bad. That's like going to your houseplant and being like, I'm going to dump all of the water for a year on top of you and let it run out to the floor and, and then the rest of the year you get no water. Nice?
Yeah.
Good?
好，所以举例来讲呢，澳洲的布里斯本最近 received 他们收到了大概他们的 annual rainfall 年降雨量 80% 的降雨量但是呢 in just 6 days 6天之内降下了他们通常一年会降下来的雨那当然一定造成问题。
While the weather has always been changing, the weather is not static, S-T-A-T-I-C, which means it doesn't move, it doesn't change. Well, weather is always changing. It is clear that climate change has led to some extreme variations. So this is from vary, V-A-R-Y, means to change from one thing to another. Instead of having short periods of hot weather, now we have long periods of hot weather. Instead of having the occasional thunderstorm, now we have flooding. These are extreme variations in the climate.
好，所以呢 while 是虽然呢天气从过去到现在一直都在改变，但是 it is clear that 很明显的 climate change 气候变迁 has led to 导致了 some 一些 extreme variations 一些很极端的变化。
Okay, so we have some questions for you about this article. And number 1 is, how are heat waves changing as a result of climate change?
好，气候变迁让热浪产生了什么样的变化呢？
And they're changing for the worse. C, they're becoming more intense and much longer.
答案是 C， 热浪变得更强烈而且更持久。
Number 2, what does the word exacerbate most likely mean in the third paragraph?
第三段里面 exacerbate 这个字最有可能是什么意思呢？
The answer is worsen, or to get worse, to get more severe. The answer is D.
所以答案是 D, worsen 就是恶化。
And number 3, according to the passage, why are some places more likely to experience extreme rainfall events?
根据本文，为什么有些地方更容易经历极端降雨事件呢？
And the answer is B. Water evaporates, it turns into vapor in clouds at a faster pace in hot weather, and that water has to go somewhere, so it comes down in another place as rain.
所以答案是 B， 在炎热的天气里，水分蒸发速度更快。
Okay, that's it for today's lesson. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.